remote. Now we're all together. Indianapolis with the Georgia Bulldogs, a.k.a. the White Walkers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. For us, it's the Roman Army. Fellas, welcome. How we doing?
Doing great.
Pretty damn good.
It's good to see you guys in person, man. Like, George, I knew you were a good-looking guy, but, man, in person, really.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. But
are those prescription, by the way, or is that a look? I think that's a look.
They're prescribed for swag.
Wow. Man, that's a jar. Listen, but we got money in the jar already. The first 3 minutes of the show.
For swag. Pat, good to see you, man. We're a Big Ten, especially unfortunately on the Big Ten. Unfortunately. They had a chance, though. We had a chance. We were in there. We were battling. It's good to see you all. Knowing you're coming to Indianapolis, come on down here and go with us. We're here tonight for another hour. Tomorrow we're off for 7 hours, including the game. We kick off here at noon. Ellison Brewing Company. We're right down here, 1 block from Lucas Oil Stadium. Everything is going on right here. Great place. We have 500 free bets on. You got to be here in person. 500 free bets with Bet Rivers. You got to be here in person. Come down and take advantage of that. QR codes are down here on the posters. We got gear. We got swag. Come meet some of your favorite college quarterbacks. Bryce Petty is signing baby's forehead.
that's right. That's right. Yep, that's right.
Trevor Knight's shirt goes off at 1 p.m. Can you really pass on that? You can long drive contest with Christian Hackenberg. Bring all your Penn State gear down here. Hack will sign it 2 times when we get down here. So let's just get this.
Let's go right.
But Ellison Brewing Company, come on down. 500 free bets with Bet River Sportsbook. 500 free bets. They'll be on the cruise here. We'll get up. The QR codes will be down here on those. We got all this stuff going on. It's finally good a chance to talk about football, fellas. We started this season talking about the 5 families. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. In our opinion, really, just because they've been that over time, are the 5 best programs in college football. 2 of them battled their way here. Are we surprised, or should we have seen this coming?
We should have seen this coming, George. You take us back to the beginning of the year. It is Spencer Rattler and the Oklahoma Sooners that are poised to win a Heisman Trophy at that position and then go to the college football playoff and finally getting over that hump to go to the national championship. Here we are at the end of the year. We always try to bet against them, which I'm going to continue to do this weekend, but Alabama's back. And then you got Georgia, who has continued all year long to be the White Walkers on defense. The little blemish in the SEC title game, got back on track in the playoff. I don't think we should be surprised. These are the 2 best teams in college football, and I can't wait for tomorrow night. It's going to be a heck of a matchup.
We went back and forth. That's the 5 families. From a Big Ten, and outside the SEC perspective, we thought Ohio State was going to threaten. They did threaten. They got it all the way there. Michigan actually broke through, got in, put up a battle, wound up getting knocked out by one of the teams contending in this matchup. What did it say about these 2 teams that are holding up the rest of the list like that with the expectations on them early and laying here?
Yeah, I think it's a huge testament to the way that these coaches run the program. I think Nick Saban obviously has been doing this for, we'll dive deeper into it. He's been doing this for almost 15 years, 12, 15 years. Testament to have the expectations of both the players and the coaching staff too. When you look at the amount of turnover he's had over the past really 5, 6, 7 years, he's been able to just reload from a coaching staff standpoint and also from a personnel standpoint. And then Kirby being one of those programs, taking over another big-time SEC program and has really built them into a powerhouse of their own. I know that we reserved the 5 families, and this year Georgia, I think it was just the preseason expectations and things of that nature. But realistically speaking, I think we hold 2 of those spots for Alabama and another SEC contender. that's just the way it's shaken out. LSU was there for a little bit. So I really think that it's a testament to the way that these guys do it. I think Nick Saban has proven himself to be the Bill Belichick, the godfather of college football, in the sense that a lot of these programs and a lot of these coaches, not just head coaches, but also assistant coaches, have come from that tree. I think he's done a really good job of just improving the overall prowess of programs in the SEC, but also interconference, from an interconference standpoint. That's been impressive. And I think the way that they did it, the Big Ten gave it a chance. I think Ohio State, from a talent standpoint, definitely had the players and the personnel to be here. They had a couple slip-ups. I think Ryan Day was figuring some of those things out. Michigan and Harbaugh came on strong. But ultimately, I think the two best teams in college football are here to match up. And I think that that's what, as fans, we can only expect. We can only look for the team.
Right. And I agree with you on that. Speaking of fans, let's go to Bryce Petty. He has a lot of fans. Bring your child or your baby down here. Bryce will sign their forehead tomorrow. We don't know yet what the cost will be, but he will be here to sign. Bryce.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stardom. Every big show needs stars. We got two of the most physical, talented teams in the championship, which we all want, and they come with no shortage of rock stars. Who are some of the biggest stars you're excited to see come tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think when you talk about both teams, they start with a QB. I really think both teams have, I say that, and then as I think about it, I'm like, damn, man, Alabama's loaded. But you start with Bryce Young, Heisman Trophy winner, really came on strong. The kid's a freshman. I think his trajectory and the runway that he has to be.
And you can't say that enough. First of all, he was in the prom last year, playing high school football this time last year. You can't say that enough, Bryce. I'm just following you up. As a 19-year-old.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
To battle your way here, winning games.
Yeah.
He didn't just
Right.
ride.
No.
2 90-plus yard drives against Auburn in the fourth quarter to get himself here. So Bryce Young, who else are you excited to see?
And I love it. And to stamp your point, I mean, what he's done as a 19, 18-year-old. Is he 18? 19.
He could still be 18.
Well, Dagan, we'll pull that up.
Greg, how old is Bryce Young? Could you give us a look?
We had to check that because still, I mean, this kid was in high school last year. I mean, playing in California, to do what he's doing on the SEC. We got it. He's older than I thought. 20 years old.
Still a freshman.
It's still incredible though. So to do what he's doing day in and day out, and especially again in the latter end of the season, the 2 drives against Auburn, what he did in the SEC championship game against Georgia, and then just took care of business against Cincinnati. Did exactly what he needed to do to be there, and bring his team here now. So Bryce Young, you got to start with him. Stetson Bennett on the other side is a guy that we were talking about in the After Dark show. After the playoff picture that we were saying, man, there was a lot of noise in that locker room and really in the media about who is Stetson Bennett. Do we need to see JT Daniels or to see JT Daniels? I think he answered that call. He said, hey, I'm your quarterback. I'm the guy to lead this offense on this field. So I love what he's got going on. What he can do gives them a dynamic position at the quarterback position. I think a little bit more than JT Daniels. He can run around a little bit when he needs to. Can he take care of the football is the biggest thing. And then Brian Robinson, when you talk about Alabama's backfield, we saw over 200 yards against Michigan in that game, or I'm sorry, against Cincinnati in that game. They can overpower you with the run game. And then when you go back to Georgia, it's all about their defense. All about their defense. You can go down the list. Those guys on the defensive side, can they come back from the SEC championship game, fix their little tweaks, and be sound? If they can be sound defensively, I think it's a different ball game than what we saw in the SEC championship game.
That'll be a different ball game. Trevor, if we go to the SEC championship game, and to all of us, can you beat a team twice? That's been a question that's been sitting right there on the edge of every discussion on this championship game. Alabama comes in, they got a couple of Nixon scars on them. They knock out an unfazed Georgia Bull to come out. Can they do it twice, or is there some psychological mountain that has to be climbed to do so?
Yeah, I love all the points that Bryce made about the matchups on the field. But this goes back to a revenge match. This goes back to Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban, and I know we'll get to that a ton as we talk over the next couple hours and into tomorrow. But it is difficult. You go back to AAU basketball as a 10-year-old, and you play somebody in pool play, and you got to come up against them in the championship game. It is difficult to beat a team twice. That goes for high school ball, that goes for college ball, that goes for pro ball. It is very difficult to do. That is why I think that Georgia has a better chance than they did in the SEC title game. They've now seen adversity. They know that they are capable of being beaten. So they've got to go back to the drawing board, which I think they did going into the playoff. They came out with ears pinned back, ready to just take it to a Michigan team that everybody's talked about as, hey, Big Ten East, that's maybe the best brand of football we have this year. They made them look relatively pedestrian in that game, and now here they are. Hey, rematch. We're going back to the drawing board. We're going to go back into individual meeting rooms, change our game plan, and here we are. Let's step up to the plate and do this again.
Speaking of stepping up to the plate, Hack, if Georgia is going to respond like that, it really is going to come down largely to Saban, also to Coach O'Brien. You're one of the 2 or 3 people in this city who have taken snaps under Bill O'Brien. The other couple guys are playing in this championship game. What does he need to secure or be mindful of in round 2 against these Bulldogs?
So the one thing that I have a ton of admiration for is the way that Kirby Smart has built his defense. It's we'll obviously dive way deeper into this tomorrow, but the personnel he has, it's a 3-4 defense, but the athletes that he has in those positions, they play in space really well. It's very well documented how much of an emphasis it was for him to be able to put a personnel out there in a tough presentation to challenge the spread offense. The way the RPO has become a big thing. And that, I think, personally for me, reflecting on Bill O'Brien, when I were very much so still a Patriots pro-style brand of football, and when he had the opportunity to work with Deshaun Watson and a few other guys, I think he has morphed, and I think he has built it now to tailor the offense to Bryce Young's skill set, which I think is a lot of that. The kid has the ability to push the ball down the field off of play action if they can run it, and some pro concepts, but I think a lot of his game is relying on RPOs and being able to find those green grass throws, read and react, allow him to get the ball out of his hands quick and not have a ton of pressure and face a ton of pressure and some deeper, longer progressive route concepts. So what I find is that cat and mouse game between Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart and Bill O'Brien in terms of what is Dan going to pull out of the bag to create some confusing looks for Bryce pre-snap that may create a little bit of hesitation from a protection standpoint or from a key standpoint on an RPO that could give some hesitation. And ultimately, that split second of hesitation can be the difference between a big-time completion and an interception or a negative play. So I look for Dan to play that cat and mouse with Bill. For Bill to be able to come in here prepared, watch what Georgia did against Michigan, reflect on what they did that was successful against a Georgia team that was on a roll heading into the SEC championship game, figure out how to build upon that, and prepare Bryce to see a little, which will ultimately relate to him seeing a lot, as long as he stays on his keys and understands what these defensive players need to do in order to be in position to defend soundly with what they're trying to do.
So if you go off of what Hack is saying, Bryce, that cat and mouse game between all these heavyweight coordinators who are so loaded with talent. Some games you have heavyweight coordinators who their poker hand isn't that strong. You're a great poker player, but you're not really. These guys are playing with a loaded deck. Who does it make more sense, or who do you expect to take more shots or throw dice in this game? Georgia, offensive or defense, or Alabama, offense or defense? Who would you expect to see to gamble some? Throw the dice, like what Hack is saying. Georgia amp up more pressure, become more exotic on the defensive side. Bama get more. They already went north in round 1.
Yeah.
Went north a lot and won. who either throws dice or who makes the biggest tactic of the 4 units?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it has to be Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, right? I mean, what happened in the SEC championship game to lose 41-24? Man, were holes all in that defense. So, and I think they played very vanilla.
But there was also some issues with Stetson, like you said, from a turnover standpoint. Gave Alabama some short fields. I think that defense played relatively well, but I want you to expand. I think that the overall score of that game, I don't think it necessarily reflected the way that defense played.
Exactly, and I totally agree. So that's what if Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning those holes to where you can take fires on, or you can blitz smoke on the side and still have your back end intact, knowing that, hey man, I can do this up front, and you guys at least save me from the big play, the Jamison Williams down, right in the middle down the sideline. That's what Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart are going to hopefully do. And if you guys remember from a couple of years ago, the Devontae Smith right at the sideline, that was cover 2 busted coverage. So they have to be able to twice, exactly. They have to be able to do what they can soundly and still eliminate big plays. So I think, in terms of what we're talking about, Billy O, you know him better than anybody. Yeah. I think is going to come out and do the exact same thing, knowing that, man, if we just play our offense, if we give it to Brian Robinson back here and Bryce Young, you do what you do, man, we can beat these guys. To me, on the other side of the football, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, those guys aren't going to say, hey, we need to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff on the defensive side of the ball. Let's more than what we blitz in the SEC championship game and get after Bryce Young a little bit, make him nervous.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key. Yep. Making sure that you get after Bryce Young, make him a little uncomfortable. Although he's a Heisman Trophy winner and he put together a hell of a season, I'm not taking anything away from him. I still think that the moment, the championship game, being able to put it on his shoulders, I think Georgia would feel a lot more comfortable doing that than allowing them to be two-dimensional, have Brian Robinson to take some pressure off of Bryce Young early, and let him settle in the game. I think it needs to be from the jump. Both of these guys have to be super aggressive.
So let me ask you this, because I think those are great points. Who is under more pressure in this football game? A Heisman Trophy winner who is phenomenal, who has an impact on the game that if he plays well, they very well could go win the national championship? Or is it a Stetson Bennett, Georgia quarterback, who a week and a half ago, they're trying to decide if he's going to be the starter coming into the playoff game?
I would say Bennett.
Is it Bennett? Does he have
Bennett.
more on his shoulders, and why? Why?
So I would say Bennett because you had to battle your way into the position. Bryce Young was a succession plan. We got you ready last year behind the first rounder, and now you're in place. And we got everything else around you secured. Just keep it on the road.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett, a healthy if JT Daniels stays healthy all year, we're probably having a different discussion about the quarterback matchup. Nevertheless, he won games, he got him in here, and he's going to lead him out of the tunnel in 18 hours. The pressure is on him because 2 reasons. One, they are still a run-oriented offense, so you're going to have to contribute on the passing side to keep that front 7 soft enough.
Georgia is.
Georgia.
Yeah.
And 2, Stetson Bennett still has some head-scratching plays. So he'll alleviate a little bit of pressure by getting out of the pocket. He'll make some nice timing throws, and he'll still get out of the pocket sometimes and say, you know what? Why not? And throw that ball downfield that flips the field like what Bryce is talking about, or put these guys, like you're throwing these guys in harm's way. To me, Bryce Young is more bolted down in Alabama's system and bolted down from a trust standpoint in Alabama's building than what Stetson Bennett is. That's just my opinion.
I think that's fair, but I see it from 2 sides. You've got Stetson Bennett that, to your point, he's really got nothing to lose. Go out there and play to kind of your level on the bottom floor, and you may not win the football game. Go out and play to, maybe your best game ever, and you could be a national champion. On the other side, you've got a Heisman Trophy winner. You're expected to play at as high of a caliber as you can possibly get. If you play lower than that, it's a disappointment. Are you more conservative as a Bryce Young because of that pressure than a Stetson Bennett that could go out there and say, hey, screw it, man. I'm going to go out here and just go guns blazing. It could be the best game of my life, and I'm going to be a hero forever.
I'll be honest with you. Here's what I think. I think with the way that these teams are built, if all phases of the game are firing on all cylinders, I think Stetson Bennett has less responsibility on his shoulders due to what Georgia has done over the year. If their defense plays to their capability, which they've done against Alabama level caliber, we saw Alabama be very inconsistent throughout the year. Florida gave them a run for their money. Auburn ran them to the wire. There was a few games there where Alabama showed some vulnerability, whereas up until that SEC championship game, we didn't see anybody give Georgia a challenge. I mean, we were talking about if someone scored 14 points on Georgia, it was a miracle.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if Georgia's unit plays, their entire team plays to their capability tomorrow night, I think Stetson just needs to go in there and continue to do what he's been doing. They've asked him to throw the ball somewhere between the mid-teens to low 20s a game, off of play action, establish the run, execute, facilitate, work on some third downs where they may need him. But that's not a ton of pressure. I think Bryce Young, especially if Georgia can stifle the run, which is something that we'll dive into more, but that defense has done historically well on first and second down. If they can stifle them in some obvious passing situations, I think there's a ton of pressure on Bryce Young to be able to come out and produce the way that he's done all year. And again, I think that element of him being a young kid, no matter how cool you are, the stage, the situation, there's an element there where I think Georgia can create some opportunities for him having to force some footballs.
Yep.
And the killer part for me, Trevor, we didn't really talk Bryce Young being a Heisman contender until right around Thanksgiving.
Yep.
It was everybody else. And then Bryce Young playing consistent, Bama starting to get in position. Are you leading the Roman Army? Roman Army's here. Put the Roman Army guy down for the Heisman. And then, obviously, he goes out and wins it. To Hack's point, these guys are built so well. They're both driving Army tanks.
Yep.
It's not that little, that little car that Jason Bourne drove in the Bourne deal on the sidewalk. It's about the size of this truck. They're both driving Army tanks. They both just expected to contribute. Bryce just has some flash to what he does do. Let's flip the script here real quick. Let's talk about championship means to each head coach. So one of our producers here, Greg, has broken it down to us that Coach Saban is 6-2 in the national championship. He's going for his 7th title. 8 national championships in his 13 years at Alabama. 8 in 13 years. He is going to go down, regardless of what happens tomorrow, as one of the greatest coaches in sport. Who does this affect legacy more? Coach Saban or for Coach Smart to get his first one? Hack, will go with you.
I think Saban, for him, this is one of those, or another opportunity for him to continue to solidify his legacy and his footprint on the game. You know, something that I alluded to earlier, you see his proteges, you see his coordinators, you see all these guys go on to take head jobs and now become contenders, and people who, to use our terms, the 5 families, they get in there. You have the Dabos, you have the Kirbys. There's so many of them. You know, Dan's now going to Oregon.
Yep.
So that tree just continues to grow. So I think for Saban, this is just another notch on the belt for him. Where I think that this makes a huge impact is for Kirby, having already been there, having fought in a great football game a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think for Kirby, this is a program-defining opportunity. Georgia, under Mark Richt, were always there. They were right on the cusp. They always had some very talented football teams, but could never really get over that hump. I think if Georgia can do this, I think this solidifies Georgia now as another big-time program that's going to run it in the SEC. And fortunately for the SEC, you have Alabama and Georgia on opposite sides of the conference. I think it's a hell of an opportunity for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think even when you listen to his post-game presser after Michigan, the way he talked about the preparation, he didn't great bath. He already knew Saban had a 4-hour head start on him.
Correct.
So he understands the implications of this football game, and I think for me, this would be another notch on the belt for Saban, and it would just solidify his legacy more. but I think when you talk greater impact and deeper roots within a program, this is a huge football game for Georgia.
Bryce, then Trevor, Kirby Smart. To Hack's point, like, we do get the impact and the magnitude of Saban, but we don't really have discussions about who's the second best head coach in college football or who's the second best solidified program. How big of a step is this for Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs? What's this mean for him? It's a second national championship game in, 3 years? Bryce, how much does this set up for him to get his Bulldog Nation in an opposite equal of Bama?
Yeah, well, I think this is a real Ricky Bobby approach here. I think Kirby Smart's saying, look, if you're not first, you're last. Because if you can't, and I think Georgia's shown that. I mean, they let go of Mark Richt, who's a hell of a coach. Because you can't beat Bama. And to Hack's point, look, we got there, a couple years ago. It's not enough. You need to beat Alabama. And as we have a touchdown here, did we end the game here?
Yes.
Looks like the Dolphins just beat New England.
The Patriots tried to lateral their way 98 yards.
Oh, that's what it was.
And
Okay,
it
good
went
deal. So we already had that.
Oh, wow.
Bill Belichick, which naturally. Oh, thank you so much.
And here we go at Ellison
let's get
Brewing
started.
Co.
Apple juice, thank you. It's very good hangover cure. Thank you, Dagan. We're fresh and we start the morning off right.
That's right.
Thanks, Rob. Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and finish what I'm saying first before I take this. That way the camera's off me. But this is a great example. You got Bill Belichick over our shoulder. What Nick Saban is repeatedly compared to is Bill Belichick. And what they do is they love to coach football at the end of November and in December. This momentum, this is what those guys coach for is championships. And I think that these guys solidified their team, especially for Saban, solidified his team in November against this Auburn team, solidified it in December. This is what these guys coach for is national championships. So, Hack, I totally understand. I think rightfully so, Kirby Smart being 0-4 against Nick Saban, it means a lot to Kirby Smart. Man, notch on your belt or not, I want a big belt. I think I want a championship belt. Nick Saban, this is what he coaches for. He doesn't coach to beat Bama. He coaches to win national championships. So to me, I think this is bigger next time.
I'm going to agree with both of you guys, but Kirby Smart has now learned his lesson. He loses to Bama in the national championship a couple years ago. Hey, I get it. I lose to the guy that taught me everything I know, right? Now you come to the SEC title game this year, and Kirby Smart, as a young head coach without that experience, walks into the game saying, dude, I've been under you. I understand what it's like to have the best talent in the country. We have it, and I'm coming in here. And he slipped up. He slipped up for that one day, and he didn't approach it like Saban has approached every game for his entire career of, I don't care who we're going up against. I don't care if it's the national championship or a non-conference game against who knows who, right? He approaches every game the same. Now we're here, round 5 against these guys, right? And Kirby Smart better get that team ready, and I think he has over the last month. Hey, take it from me, a guy that has been there, that has been in that locker room putting that ring on my finger, that it doesn't just take walking in here knowing that you have more talent. It takes buying in and truly getting down to business for one football game to be historic forever. It has so much more to be smart in this game. Sure, Nick Saban's going to be the greatest of all time, like you said, George, regardless if he wins this game or not. This puts Kirby Smart on the map to where we can start having the conversation. Is it Kirby Smart? Is it Dabo Swinney? Who's the next guy up?
I think he made a great point there, though, too, how you talked about the last month.
Yeah.
Don't think that Georgia, with the amount of time that they've had to prepare for Michigan and now this game, that they did not take some time.
That's
to
absolutely
go out and
true.
Worry about Alabama and study some practices.
That's right.
Or the Crimson Tide, looking ahead, because that's how confident that football team is.
That's right.
A great point.
That's right.
Hey,
That's
that
right.
was mine. I wrote it down in this paper.
And this is how confident we are. You should come on down here and join the field of 12. Ellison Brewing Company. Watch this. Look how crazy it is right now in the Ellison Brewing Company. And yes, We owe it to all these dog fans and college football fans right now. We're going to take a quick sip with all of them as they raise their glass. As they raise their glass. Come on down tomorrow. Come get with us. As they say down here, go Dogs. And second, go everything. But just go to Ellison Brewing tomorrow. Come down, get with the field of 12. College football, we're going to have all kind of guests tomorrow. Former players, former coaches, a couple of reporters that are going to come down that have been with these teams all season long. Fellas, your predictions. Let's just go to it. Hack, who do you bet your last dollar on to come out of this stadium tomorrow as the national champion?
So, I'm going to dive deeper into this tomorrow.
Yep.
Third time we said.
And I know that throughout this season,
Hack's diving deeper, if anybody knows, tomorrow.
I am diving deeper tomorrow. So I'm trying to tell you guys to come over here tomorrow and you want to know why.
That's called a tease.
That's a tease, exactly. Bryce is very familiar with that. For a lot of reasons, mainly because I called him at the beginning of the year. First episode that we were all together virtually, I said, Georgia Bulldogs will win the national championship. And I'm sticking my guns. I think that this football team, the way that they're built, this defense shows up. I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I definitely think that media attention to how they performed in the SEC championship game is going to play a factor in the way that they prepare and perform tomorrow. And I expect that front seven to show up and cause some issues. I'm riding with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Go Dogs! Go Dogs! Go Dogs! Trevor Knight, Mr. Sooner, Mr. Aggie, Alabama, Georgia. Where do your alliances ride tomorrow?
This is tough. It's against my own judgment. I've played against Alabama 2 times. I got to beat them once. I lost to them once. I understand what that culture is all about as an opponent going up against that team. It's hard. It's a brick wall. You've got to run into it, and you got to keep banging it. Maybe it'll break. Most often than not, it won't. That being said, I'm with my man Hack. I think that Georgia's defense, the opportunity that they went through in the SEC title, that adversity that they faced, losing to this football team, they've given themselves the ability to go regroup. It's tough to beat a team twice like we talked about a little while ago. I just have a gut feeling that Georgia's going to pull this one out. I've been told a million times that Alabama, you never bet against them, but I'm going against them again. I'm taking the Dogs in this one. Kirby Smart, welcome to the club.
Go Dogs! Bryce Petty, sir. Bryce Petty.
I have a few opinions on this one. Don't throw. Yeah, I got one guy ready to throw a dang glass at me over here. I'm going completely different. In that, I think this game right here is going to be all about the front seven of Georgia against Bryce Young, Brian Robinson of Alabama. I think that 41-24, no way that happens again. I think that Kirby Smart, to Hack's point, to Trevor's point, has been taking this whole month to say, hey guys, X's and O's, if we do what we need to do, we win this game. And I got 31-24, Georgia.
Let's go!
Over Alabama.
Go Dogs!
And Stetson Bennett as the MVP of this game.
I like the call.
So,
You're supposed to say that tomorrow. That's the tease part.
Uh-oh. Everybody hold on here. Here's George.
lastly.
Michigan's not playing in this game, by the way, George. Michigan's not playing in the game.
All right, so hold on.
Take a note.
In August, who started calling the Georgia Bulldog defense the White Walkers?
Katy Perry did. Katy Perry had a quote tweet.
The White Walkers are the most fearsome fighting force in Game of Thrones. I love Kirby Smart. I love the White Walkers. I love the story of Stetson Bennett. They got their big receiver back. Best freshman maybe in the last 10 years in Brock Bowers. Here come the Dogs to second place tomorrow. It's going to be Alabama, and here's why. Alabama has built for this. This is not one of Nick Saban's best teams. It's not. Make no mistake. They formed into shape as the season went on. Young quarterback, smaller quarterback. You don't really know what Bryce Young is. We are all familiar with him through grassroots. But could he really take on this mantle? Could he really go out and win games when they met an opposite equal? We watched that a couple different occasions. Kept them on track, no meltdown games. Very Mac Jones-like. Kept the trains moving. Best player in America, with all those White Walkers, is actually the linebacker from Alabama, and Will Anderson. I am going with Nick Saban, his experience, a 6-2 record in the national championship game. Alabama tomorrow. Either way, I hope it goes double overtime. We're going to see how this thing goes. But for Trevor Knight, Bryce Petty, we are Penn State's Christian Hackenberg, George Whitfield. Come on down tomorrow, Ellison Brewing Company. We will try to save you a seat. Look how wild it is down there.
Woo!
Come on down. We got a seat for you. We got free bets for you. We got games. We got gear. We got swag. Come get something cold to sip on. We'll be here. We'll see you tomorrow. The Field of 12 National Championship game. We're out.
And we're out.